name is Virginia Thaxton, and I'm a horticulturist with the interior section. We take care of all the tropical plants that go inside the museums and decorate the museums. When I first got with the task, like, okay, research orchidologists, and I went online, out of 56 orchidologists, 5 were women. Edith Coleman was an Australian naturalist. Something very unique about her, when she was 48 years old is when she started publishing papers and produced over 30 years of her life till she was 78, more than 300 papers on natural things. Edith Coleman's most famous discovery was related to what's called pollination syndromes, which are the ways in which insects pollinate plants or anything pollinates a plant. So the one she discovered had puzzled Darwin before her. Darwin wrote a whole book about pollinization in orchids, and he always thought, why are there some orchids that don't have nectar but they still attract pollinators? What's going on? And he couldn't figure it out. And Edith Coleman was the one that came up with what's called pseudocopulation pollinization, which means the orchid mimics the female wasp. So the male wasps come to the orchid not to feed, not to eat nectar, but to try to mate with the flower. But she discovered this by observing that the wasp was going into the flower backwards, not as if it was going to eat something. Alyssa Weinstein is an orchid ecologist from Australia. She is now going back to looking at the orchids that Edith Coleman studied and that pseudocopulation syndrome that she discovered, and she's doing all this like new modern technique analysis to keep adding more and more data and information on something that was studied back in 1920. And one of the current orchid taxonomists, her name is Hanna Margonska, and she's a Polish taxonomist. She works as a researcher at a university in Poland. So she has named and revised almost 500 orchids. Not necessarily species of orchids, but she's worked with species, subspecies, tribes, genera, so different taxa of orchids, but it amounts to 500 individual plants. The unique thing about Hanna Margonska, she does her own botanical illustrations for her papers. So after she collects and presses, she also dissects and does the drawings. It's amazing. And she does botanical art. So taxonomists can use different characteristics to identify a plant. They can be morphological or physiological. Morphology is the anatomy of the plant. What are the flowers looking like? What are the leaves? How is the growth? What does the stem look like? The roots. It's all that is tangible in the plant that you can see. And every characteristic determines something about the plant and its relatives. Now, when you talk about physiological characteristics, you're talking about chemical pathways. How does the plant function? How does it photosynthesize? There's different photosynthesis systems that can tell you if a plant belongs to a family or another. There's still room for so much to research, for new generations to get into it. There's a place for everybody in science. And that's something that I want to transmit to my son and every kid that's going to come to this exhibit.